Hi guys, welcome to Monitoring and Evaluation Made Simple. I'm your host, Coach Alexander. I'm so glad that you've joined me in the year 2021. This is a brand new training. It's a very good training and it is rich in content. And actually, this training is the longest I've ever done. It's going to be 3 hours long, but don't worry, there are timestamps in the description below so that you can get the full maximum benefit as you are watching this video. So now, just a bit about myself. My name is Coach Alexander. I've been in the monitoring and evaluation profession for a long time now, 10 years now. So if you're here for the very first time, I want to assure you that the content I share to people all over the world is authentic and it is there to build your confidence in your skills. Okay, so I'm there to help you. Please feel free to write to me. My email is in the description below. I really want to help you succeed. But before I go any further, before we jump into the training, I have a very interesting 6-month program which is commencing in January 12th. We already piloted this thing last year, but this year we wanted to be more organized, more fresh, more innovative. So in January 12th, we'll be starting the 6-month one-on-one coaching program. If you're interested to enroll, please don't hesitate to write to me. In case you miss the deadline for enrollment, we might be able to make a bit of some provision, but we can't guarantee that. But however, all the same, just write to me. It's a very good program. Many people have benefited from this program, and I want you to benefit from it as well. But in case you want to get freebies, I have freebies. You can get these books in the link in the description below. You have the M&E Guide 2020, then you've got the Logical Framework Analysis Step-by-Step Guide. Very soon I'll be releasing the 2021 guide, which you'll be able to use in your M&E efforts. I also have a course, How to Set Up a Monitoring and Evaluation System. It's being hosted on Udemy. Please feel free to enroll in this course because it is well done and a lot of positive reviews. So don't hesitate to enroll in this important course. As usual, this is a long video and actually it's the longest video I've ever done, 3 hours long. So I sure hope you're going to enjoy every bit of it. You can skip certain parts by using this timestamp, and please write to me in case of any question. So let's get started with the training. So what is monitoring and evaluation? So I just have to start by defining it before we can go any further. And for the sake of those who are here for the very first time, you see, monitoring and evaluation is mainly a tool that you use to gauge performance of a project. We all have different projects that are running all over the world. You've got road construction projects, you've got building construction projects, you've got water development projects, and you've got the common one which we see all around us where you have NGOs running projects on behalf of donors that are funding them to do those projects. So now the point is, are these projects actually bringing the intended change that was planned? And the other thing is that if they're not bringing that change, if they're not registering the impact they want to see, the question is why. So you find that you ask the what, you ask the why, you ask the how. All these questions help you better understand the project, better improve, and also better design and implement these interventions. So it is really an important way that you can improve and enhance your management capabilities. So I like to think of it as something so important, it can also be applied in your own personal lives. So now, this 2021 training is going to show you how M&E is conducted. You see, we've got the monitoring part of it. We've also got the evaluation component of it. So how do you do it? Others do it, but they don't do it the right way. So this training is going to show you how you conduct a monitoring intervention and how you conduct an evaluation intervention. Then the other part of this training, it will also show you how to develop a monitoring and evaluation plan. So the plan is really one of the most important parts of the whole M&E system. Unfortunately, I won't talk much about the M&E system in this year's training, but perhaps I'll talk about it maybe midway through the year. They are both important components. The M&E system is the bigger picture. The M&E plan is a sub-component. So we're going to talk about the M&E plan. I'm going to also show you how to develop an M&E plan. And then another important aspect which is critical is how do you ensure that M&E data is of high quality? Because at the end of the day, if you're going to make well-informed decisions, you have to rely on good quality data to make those decisions. So this is what this training is about, guys. I really want you to watch the whole video so that you're going to be fully equipped in the days to come. So join me in the following parts of this training. Give me a few. Hi guys, so glad that you've come back again. So I wanted us to talk about, before I talk about the monitoring process and the evaluation process, I want us to talk about the key to anything you do in relation to monitoring and evaluation, and that is the logical framework matrix. As you can see right in front of you, there is this LFA matrix. Very important, guys, because this is where you actually get to know what exactly you're monitoring and evaluating. Wow. So it all starts from this matrix. Of course, there's nothing that has been populated in it, but I'm going to show you an example of one that has been populated. So in most project documents, in most strategic plans, they have an LFA. You simply go to that LFA and look for this section, the indicators. Once you know the indicators, then you're in business. Then you know exactly what it is you should be monitoring and evaluating. So the monitoring usually takes place at activity level and output level, sometimes even at the outcome level. But the actual evaluation starts from here, the higher level indicators. That's where you have the evaluation. I won't talk so much about the means of verification, risks and assumptions and summary, because I'm pretty sure you can find time to do that yourself. But our interest is the indicators. So now in this example, I got this from toolsfordevelopment.org. You can find what they've written on their website because they give an example of an LFA matrix. So if you look at this example of an LFA matrix, you have all the indicators listed there. And this is what forms the basis of doing the monitoring and evaluation. So you're going to be able to get you know, the indicators. For instance, this is percentage of grades 5 to 6 primary students continuing to high school, and so on and so forth. Once you have these indicators, then you develop the data collection tools. Then you actually do the data collection. After you do the data collection, you do the analysis and then the report writing. So I just thought I could start by saying that that is where M&E really begins. So without wasting much time, let's go straight into understanding the monitoring process and the evaluation process. I'll catch you shortly. Hi guys, I sure hope you are enjoying the 2021 training so far. And now we're going deeper into the training. We want to understand what the monitoring is and what evaluation is. So as you are well aware, M&E consists of these two words, the monitoring and the evaluation. So these two words are totally different. Although they feed into one common agenda, they are two different things. And it's very important that we always understand that they are different. So what is monitoring? Okay, so the monitoring, think of it as a continuous ongoing process that is done in order to ensure that planned activities are being implemented according to the plan. Because sometimes when we have these plans, when we have a plan activity, it could deviate from our target. So what monitoring does is to ensure that there is no deviation, but it is being implemented according to what was planned at the onset of the project. So let's say if you have a deadline to finish a road construction project by the month end of March, you have to ensure that indeed so the timeline is being well respected. So what you have to do is ensure that the work is being done according to plan, resources are being used accordingly, personnel are available, reports are being generated, and so on and so forth, so that you can be able to make better informed decisions in case there's a deviation. So the monitoring is done in real time, and management uses that information to make well informed decisions. Unlike when it is an evaluation, it is totally different, which I'm going to discuss in detail as we proceed. So the monitoring is done at the input stage, the activity, and the output stage. I want to give you an example. Have you ever, I'm sure you've come across the dams. Okay, when I say a dam, I'm talking about those dams which generate hydroelectric power, or those dams which that are constructed in order just to store water in them. So in order to when that dam is being constructed, obviously you need human capital, you need the finances, you need the materials to construct the dam. So that is what is called the inputs in this case. So now those inputs now lead to the activities. So meaning that in order to construct that dam, what activities should be done? Obviously, you need people that are going to pour the concrete, you need people that are going to lift the whole structure in such a way that it's able to hold the water. So those are some of the activities which will be done. So after all those activities are conducted, what you have is the final product, which is the dam itself. And the dam, the outcome is that you have power generated, and with that electricity being generated, it has economic benefits. So monitoring of all these inputs, activities, and the output will be done at this stage, at implementation stage. But the evaluation is usually done for higher level indicators, which is the outcome and the impact. That is where the evaluation is done in most cases. So monitoring, as I earlier mentioned, is an ongoing process. The lessons from monitoring are discussed periodically and used to inform actions and decisions. So now, sometimes it's really prudent, okay, in most cases actually, to have a monitoring framework. So the monitoring framework matrix is what is in front of you. It just gives you an idea of what is happening so that you can easily keep track of what exactly is taking place. So as you can see in this matrix, you've got the outputs. Okay, sorry about that. You've got the outputs, you've got the targets. If you are not living up to your targets, it will clearly reflect as you populate information in the quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, quarter four, as you populate information there, it will show whether you are living up to your targets. So let's say your target is by month end of March, you should have constructed, if maybe let's use a different example, you should have constructed a 20-kilometer road. Okay, so your target here will be 20 kilometers, and then in quarter one, let's say by end of the first quarter, you constructed maybe a 5-kilometer road. By the second quarter, it was 10 kilometers. By the third quarter, it's 15 kilometers. So you can see that when you are tracking in this way, it can give you a sense whether indeed you're heading towards achieving your targets. Okay, so this framework helps a lot, guys. So in monitoring, we shouldn't ignore one fact. There is a lot of data collection involved, big time. So all the indicators that are listed in the log frame, from the inputs to the outputs, those are the indicators that in most cases you are going to be monitoring. So it is only prudent that you develop data collection tools after you've identified all the indicators. You need to develop data collection tools. I have a video on this same YouTube channel that is a 7-part series telling you exactly how monitoring and evaluation is done and how you can actually develop data collection tools. So when undertaking the data collection, it is very important to emphasize on the quality of data. We all know that quality means different things to different people. But there is a standard criteria in ensuring that your data is of high quality. Take, for instance, is it authentic? Is it valid? That's one criteria you need to ask yourself. And you need to make sure that at the end of the day, when you collect this data, it's of high quality, because high quality data means that you are going to be making better informed decisions. While the poor quality data will just make you make poor decisions. So it all starts from that. So I mentioned that the criteria for data quality, first of all, is the validity. And the second thing is reliability. And the third is timeliness. All these three variables form a triangle. And what this is simply saying is that they interdepend on each other. So you need to make sure that you've got it right from the very beginning. And that is why sometimes it is crucial that you come up with data collection tools that have been verified. And also, you need to invest time and resources in conducting a data quality audit of your organization, because that way it will reveal to you weaknesses in your system. Another important thing is when you've collected this data, you need to make sure that you take it through a proper analysis process. Because when you do the analysis the correct way, you are going to be able to come up with findings that can be easily reported on in a constructive manner. Okay, so I've talked about monitoring. So what is evaluation? Evaluation, guys, is an in-depth assessment It is not like monitoring. Monitoring is done, it's done regularly, but evaluation is not done regularly. It's actually done at the higher level indicators. It's actually done now to tell you whether your project achieved its purpose or not. So in the process of trying to tell you, there are other things that it's expected to explain. The evaluation is expected to explain on the relevance, the efficiency, its effectiveness, the impact and sustainability of the project. When we talk of, for instance, efficiency, was the project cost effective? Because if it wasn't cost effective, then what was the problem? It is through these findings that you're able to detect what went wrong, and so that in the next phase of your implementation, you can best be able to take corrective action in the next programming phase. You can have better designed programs because you learned from your mistake in the previous implementation phase. So now the process of doing an evaluation is quite lengthy. I won't go into detail, but this is really the roadmap that you have to follow. Mind you, an evaluation is not done by any other person but the consultant. Independent evaluator, someone who wasn't part of the project, is the one who does the evaluation because he's independent, he's objective, he doesn't have any biasness. So what this analytical process does, if you look at the roadmap, this just helps you understand what goes into conducting an evaluation. You've got first identifying what is the purpose of the evaluation, identifying also the objectives of the evaluation. It's really important that when you are hiring a consultant, guys, you need to make sure that the terms of reference is clear about why you're doing this and what should come out. Remember, in the previous slide, I talked about the evaluation being able to measure the relevance, the sustainability, the efficiency, effectiveness. All those things should come out as as the objectives of the evaluation. So when you've identified the objectives, you come up with the questions, you come up with the data collection tools. And it is those data collection methods and tools that will now help you generate findings because now you would have collected the needed data. On this YouTube channel, I have a series that is running that actually tells you the different types of evaluations that are conducted. I'll urge you to watch that video. It's maybe I'll put a link in the description so that you can access it if I remember. But it's easy to navigate the YouTube channel. Please watch that video. It tells you, it's not actually one isolated video, it's a series. It tells you all the different types of evaluations and also why the evaluations are done and how it's done. So now to have quality evaluations, again, there are certain standards that should be met. Because keep in mind, guys, that the evaluation will be subjected to scrutiny by different stakeholders. So you have to ensure that good planning was applied and then it has taken care of the key aspects when it comes to adhering to some of the standard practices. So now, there are three types of evaluations that are done, okay, just so that you get to know this. You've got the baseline, all right, it's also a kind of an evaluation. You've got the midterm evaluation, then you've got the end of project evaluation. So the baseline is a kind of evaluation. You do your research, go on the internet, you'll find that actually the baseline is actually a kind of evaluation. So this one just tells you the benchmarks. Okay, it gives you what was there prior to the project being implemented. So it will just tell you in relation to the indicators what was there before the project came. For instance, what was the percentage of people living in poverty in 2009, assuming that is the baseline year. So it will tell you that. But the evaluation now will will actually give you what you've achieved midway through the project. And the midterm evaluation is good because, as you are well aware, once you do when you analyze issues midway through the project, it gives you that chance to take corrective action in case you had made some mistakes or in case you are not achieving the targets as planned. As you also know, there's the end of project evaluation, which is the most important evaluation, because this is where now you really get to understand whether you achieved your goals or not. As I earlier mentioned, these evaluations are always conducted by external consultants, people who are not part of the project. I can actually give you one exception. If, for instance, you feel as an organization that you want to do an internal evaluation, that is welcome because it just helps you prepare for the external evaluation. However, when you do the internal evaluation, don't you don't think that it's the only evaluation you ever do. You have to factor in the external evaluation as well, because there is no one better than an external person who can actually tell you how you are performing in terms of implementation of a project. So now, as I earlier mentioned, these are the different attributes that are conducted in the evaluation. For instance, it tries to measure efficiency, effectiveness, impact. But then the evaluation uses different approaches in achieving this. You have the quantitative approaches and you've got the qualitative approaches. Those are the approaches that are used in doing the actual evaluation. Okay. So for now, guys, I think I hope you've understood one or two things about monitoring and evaluation. So stick around as we get to fully understand other aspects of the M&E that we do in our organization. Hi guys, I hope you're enjoying yourselves in this 2021 M&E training. So I just wanted to give you some few tips on how you can best implement the monitoring and evaluation. In case you're wondering where I got this Mr. Boone image, it is on a website called Pixabay. So you can find time to go there. All right. They have quite a lot of free to use photos. So I like what I see. Okay, so what are some of the tips? Well, the first tip is that you need to be hardworking. This job of monitoring and evaluation is very busy. It can get you working the whole day, it can get you working overtime sometimes. So it's really important that you stay focused. Of course, it's not all the time that you'll be busy because there are certain times of the year when you have to be collecting this data, analyzing it, and reporting on it. So usually every quarter there is that specific period when you get very busy, and also there is that period when you just get worn out and burned out. So that is just how the job is. You have to be hardworking. You have to be dedicated. Another thing is that you really need to be analytical. And being analytical is really about you looking beneath the surface. You need to be able to critically determine what has led, what has really gone wrong, and what can be done to correct a certain situation. Because that's how it is when you are doing the monitoring. You are really trying to find out how best you can make the needed corrections. Always ask the key questions. The what, okay? What has to be measured? Why does it have to be measured? How is it going to be measured? When is it supposed to be measured? And who is supposed to measure it? Okay, the what, the why, the how, the when, and who. These are all very important questions. So, as a monitoring and evaluation professional, always keep this in mind. And sometimes you'll find that when you have a project running already, let's say you join an organization and the project is already running, don't be afraid to ask these questions, because it will also keep others thinking whether what we are measuring should be actually measured. Okay. And one other important, very important thing you should always do, guys, is to refer to the logical framework always. Okay, that is just non negotiable. I know some of you have come to me and said, our organization apparently did not develop any logical framework. And I've seen this happen before. But that doesn't mean you can't really isolate what that project is trying to do. There are different kinds of frameworks which I've talked about with some of my friends. Some of the students I'm training have also highlighted this point, that you can actually determine what a project wants to achieve by looking at the different frameworks that they've presented to you, such as the conceptual framework, the logic model, and even the results framework. These frameworks can actually help you determine where the linkages are and what it is you should actually be measuring. Now, in case you come into this challenge, my advice to you is that you need to be a little bit more proactive. And although it really isn't, I wouldn't say it's a good thing for you to come up with those indicators. But if management cannot give you clearance to hold a stakeholders workshop where you should come up with indicators that are not listed, then you might just need to develop them yourselves. Make sure that these indicators are actually smart. When I say smart, specific, measurable, realistic, and time bound. Lastly, I want to talk about developing indicator reference sheets. So now, guys, the indicator reference sheets are so important, and it borders around data quality. High quality data is really important because what it does is that it helps you get the right information, rather not the information, but rather collect the right data. And then when you collect that data, you're, you're better able to make well-informed decisions. So the indicator reference sheets are simply those documents that explains what a particular indicator is and how it is measured. That's all they do. And the reason you do that is because you want to have a standardized understanding of each and every indicator that the project is capturing. Because you don't want a situation when you leave an organization, somebody comes and joins, they don't understand the indicators and they don't even know how you were collecting it. So there should be that reference point. So for now, these were just tips there are actually more tips, but if you need more tips, maybe you can write to me. If I have time, I can try to help you, give you some pointers on how best you can improve your skills as an M&D professional. So at this point in time, please continue enjoying this M&D training. Let's go to the next lesson.
Do you want to access M&E Constancy for only $5? Monitoring and evaluation, which is also known as M&E, is all about understanding where you are, where you want to be, and how you're going to get there. When you engage in any M&E intervention, the first thing you want to do is understand the context. What exactly is it that you want to achieve by having a monitoring and evaluation system? While it's true that many organizations, and not excluding individual persons, see M&E as a donor requirement, the truth is it's so much more. In 2017 alone, donors pumped in at least $27 billion in humanitarian assistance. That alone was a huge, generous commitment, but a tough call, especially if such monies are not accounted for. That's why monitoring and evaluation is important. It bridges that huge gap that gives you the information you need to know about project success. In years to come, M&E Made Simple will embark on a global mission to become an international watchdog in order to get everybody affected by a project or program to become whistleblowers in the management of funds. M&E Made Simple realizes the key importance that monitoring and evaluation plays in the lives of above 1 billion people worldwide, which is why M&E Made Simple has taken the next step to offer expertise in monitoring and evaluation on any topic of your choice. It can be any topic in M&E or project management of your choice, such as undertaking a baseline or evaluation, research, log frame development, and so on. And guess what? All this is only for $5. In order to access this service, simply register a Fiverr account using the link below. This is the first and most important step. Afterwards, use the link that follows to access the service for only $5. This service is open to students, organizations, lecturers, and any other person around the globe. That's all the time we have, and see you on the other side.
Hi guys! As you heard from the twins, M&E Made Simple offers various services for your liking. We've got the following services, such as designing of data collection tools, M&E report writing, M&E systems design and implementation, M&E systems audit, M&E trainings of staff and personnel, conducting of baselines and evaluations. So if you're interested in any of these services, please contact me on coachalexander23@yahoo.com, and we'll be happy to help you achieve your M&E goals. So let's get back to the training, shall we? Hi guys, hope you're enjoying the 2021 training. And now we're going to be looking at developing a monitoring and evaluation plan. So you see guys, the M&E plan is one of the key cornerstones in any M&E system, okay? And mind you, I want to make this clear that the M&E plan is just part of the M&E system, but it's a very key component. So I want us to talk about this at length, and I want us to fully understand why we need it, how it is used, and how do you develop this. So I'm hoping that I won't have to spend too much time, but yet again, I might need to spend a lot of time because this is a major training. I want you to get everything right at the very beginning. Okay, so what is a monitoring and evaluation plan? So first and foremost, to understand this clearly, you need to first dissect what is a plan. So a plan is what you intend to achieve, how you're going to achieve it, and what resources are required. Okay, and that is the beauty about it. You cannot say you have a plan without really detailing what you want to achieve in the first place. Many times we like to ignore the true nature of how these plans are. There is no plan in the whole entire world. Even your own plan in your own personal life has to have the resource requirements. Now, I know sometimes we tend to shy away from the resource requirement because we think that it will solve its own self. Okay, things will fall into place by itself. But I can tell you the truth. If you don't clearly outline the costs, the personnel, the time, the manpower in your plan, you are never going to succeed. So the M&E plan, now I'm sure you get it clearly, details what you intend to achieve in terms of monitoring and evaluation. I have to emphasize this again, especially for organizations that don't take M&E seriously but want to have it. You have to have the resource requirement clearly outlined from the very beginning. And when we talk about the resource requirement, I have to tell you that the key for any resources that you plan for is in the finance. It's in the finances because the finances actually give birth to the equipment that you use, the manpower that you use. And depending on how much manpower you have, it will also dictate how much time you spend. Okay, so guys, just in case you haven't downloaded my ebooks, they are here for you. They are free of charge. Please use the link in the description to download these two beautiful ebooks. Okay. All right. So that was just a by the way. I'm sure you've seen those ebooks before, but it was a by the way. But please download them. Okay. So now I want us to ask ourselves this question. Okay, and this is what we're going to be looking at in this presentation, really. Why develop a monitoring plan, M&E plan in the first place? And who should develop it? When should an M&E plan be developed and steps in developing an M&E plan? Okay, so let us answer these questions. Let's critically dissect all these questions because clearly they are so important. So why develop a monitoring and evaluations plan? Okay, so as the saying goes, failing to plan is planning to fail. Clearly, I've seen this happen a lot of times. Let me give you a practical example. In case you've been invited for a job interview, let me tell you one thing. One of the questions that usually are asked in a job interview is tell me a little bit about yourself. Now, not everybody are gifted speakers. So for those who are not gifted, you have to rehearse that question, the response to that question. And that is all part of the planning process. If you plan very well for an interview, chances are you actually win it. So now, that was just another, by the way. I hope you understand. I like giving examples sometimes, but I'm sure you get it. That you really need to critically analyze what indeed you want to achieve out of your monitoring and evaluation interventions. So different people have different reasons for having an M&D in their organization, an M&D system in their organization. Some people look at it as a cosmetic issue. I'll tell you one thing. A lot of times when we talk of M&E, especially in the NGO world, you'll find that an NGO that has a strong M&E system is taken seriously. But really, the people that have had that system developed, it's just cosmetic. If they had the opportunity, they could do away with it. They're not really into it, but they just want it as a cosmetic appearance issue so that they look good. But another reason is that, of course, it could be that it's a donor requirement. Yeah, some people look at it, no, this is a donor thing. But that shouldn't be our attitude. We all need to fully invest our time, energy in an M&D system. So, as individuals, we develop it because it's going to help us improve in our implementation of the project. So, you have to outline all the activities that are going to help you improve the way you learn, the way you correct deficiencies in the implementation of the project. And that's what the plan does. I'm sure you're reading on the screen. I don't like to read things because they're all in my head, but let me read this. It says it is important to develop an M&D plan before beginning any monitoring activity so that there is a clear plan for what questions about the program need to be answered. It will help program staff decide how they are going to collect data to track indicators, how monitoring data will be analyzed, and how the results of data collection will be disseminated both to the donor and internally among staff members for program improvement. If you've noticed, if you go on the internet right now, type monitoring and evaluation, it's usually aligned to donors. But let me tell you one thing, M&E can be applied anywhere, not just in the NGO world, but any sector that is out there. So who should develop the M&E plan? So this is a good question, guys. And I want to tell you one thing. Again, depending on how you look at these things, but organizations that have M&E personnel should take ownership of the process. I don't like it when every time there's an M&E activity, you have to run to an A consultant. Consultants are important, okay? But I feel they come in at the evaluation stage. So, in that case, if it comes to developing an M&E plan, if you have the internal capacity to do so, just do it, okay? And nobody's going to question you because you understand the organization and the project better than anyone else out there. So you should take ownership of the process. If you're a manager, specialist, or officer, jointly you can develop the M&E plan. And quite frankly, I don't think it's so difficult to develop, especially if the project is pretty straightforward to understand. The difficulty comes in if you don't have a project with clearly defined deliverables. But however, I would want to mention that it is really important to involve stakeholders in the process. What do I mean? You need to involve management. You need to involve, if you are being funded, involve the donors in the process. Involve even one or two beneficiaries of those who benefit from this, because these are your stakeholders and they have a say in how things can be run to the benefit of even you, the implementers. So now the M&D plan has to be developed just at the beginning of the project. And I don't know why people tend to delay. It's really sad because when you delay in developing the monitoring and evaluation plan, everything else gets delayed. Now, because of that delay, you constantly be trying to correct the past mistakes, which ends up being a costly venture. So why not just do everything at the word go when the project begins? So at planning stage, immediately you have the project document or the project approved. It is really important and high time that those who are taking the lead in implementing the project should come and get the expertise who can come up with the M&E plan. Now, I've seen project documents before. I've read different project documents. They'll have a section on monitoring and evaluation. That is not an M&E plan, guys. Just a section. It could be 1 or 2 pages. That's not an M&E plan. It just gives you a summary, but it's not the M&E plan. But the M&E plan is the full package. And that is what we are talking about here. So after the project is cleared for implementation, then you need to start developing the plan. So what are the steps in developing an M&E plan? Number one, identify program goals and objectives. So to get these program goals and objectives, you really have to go back to the project document. So now if you remember what I said clearly, the project has to be approved before you can embark on developing the plan. Because now once it's approved, deliverables are approved, and now you get to understand what are the goals, what are the objectives, and then you align your M&E plan to those goals and objectives. You need to define the indicators. You know what, guys? I have to tell you this. You cannot do M&E without the indicators. You just have to have those indicators. Now, sometimes you'll find that the project doesn't have smart indicators, and this becomes a very big problem to those who are implementing the M&E system. So what the M&E plan does, it will get those indicators and further improve on the understanding of what they are. So in the M&E plan, you need to list all those indicators. You also need, it's prudent to define what these indicators mean to an M&E professional who's actually doing the work. So when you define all those indicators, then you have completed the second step. So now I need to mention this point. Some projects have a lot of indicators, and regardless of how many indicators are in that project, you have to document each of them. However, if you, as after consultation with stakeholders, you feel that the monitoring and evaluation interventions will only go until a certain point in the M&E in relation to the monitoring and evaluation of indicators, then you define it only until that level. So if the project is only monitoring outputs, outcomes, and impact indicators, then that's where it ends. You won't go to the input indicators. So that's what the M&E plan will do. It will actually explain what you'll be monitoring and evaluating. Wow! Data collection methods and timelines. Very important, guys. So now a data collection method are actually the tools that you use. So there are different methods of data collection. You've got the surveys, you've got observation, you've got questionnaires, interviews. These are different types of data collection methods. So your M&E plan should define those different types. However, you need to be cautious that the different collection methods should be linked to the indicators that are listed. So for instance, you know the indicators, and it is very prudent for you now to be able to say that, okay, for this particular indicator, I'll use this data collection method. Don't list methods that you're not going to use. Only list the data collection methods that you're going to use in this section. Explain also how often you'll be collecting this information. Usually for high-level indicators, you don't collect them frequently. However, for the low-level indicators like the outputs, the input indicators, you have to collect those regularly. So you find that the timeline does differ. This is another important aspect of the M&E plan. You need to identify the M&E roles and responsibilities. So we are really talking about the M&E organogram, where you have a manager, perhaps, or a coordinator supervising different roles and functions. So that has to be clearly defined. But this is also dependent on the budget that you have. So you have to really clearly define this at the onset. It is also very important to create an analysis plan and reporting template. So an analysis plan is really that which you use, that which details how you're going to approach the analysis process. Okay, so you could mention things like how this data is going to actually be analyzed, okay, and you're going to mention how you're going to display these findings, okay, as an M&D team. However, I feel that your reporting template should be clearly documented. The reason for this is that it's always good to have a reporting template because you just want to be reporting that which is relevant to the project. So you don't want to report things that may not be useful. So hence it becomes prudent to have these templates handy. Also important is how you're going to disseminate this information, and the frequency of reporting is critical. So these are the other aspects of the M&E plan that must be clearly outlined in your plan. This is also my other favorite, it's the budget. And like I mentioned earlier on, people tend to shun away from the budget. But this is very important and you can't run away from it. So now, when you have the M&E plan, it is really important that it is well aligned to the logical framework. I don't have any problems having the LFA matrix in the plan because then it re-emphasizes your commitment to following what is outlined in the LFA. To get the indicators, you simply go to this column and it lists all the indicators. The only difference is that not all these indicators are clearly defined. So that is why in the plan, in later sections, you may have to come up with indicator reference sheets. I talked about the roles and responsibilities. So now, in the roles and responsibilities, there is an example of an organogram. You've got a director, you've got other units that is supervising. But this is all dependent on the available budget. So really, if an organization can afford to employ a director and have these other three functions, there's really no harm because they can afford it. But if there's no affordability, then don't put something that you know you won't be able to achieve. But we won't expect to have only one staff member dealing with M&E. It should be coordinated. So there should be other support staff that are helping drive the M&E function in the organization. Okay, so I talked about step 5 and 6 already. However, let me just talk about the budget. So in the budget, why do we have it there? Remember, in your plan, any plan, there has to be really the costs of what you intend to do. We cannot run away from this because that is just the sad reality. Everything we do requires money. So in terms of M&E in the budget, you really need to include things like equipment, cost of undertaking field activities. So when we talk about cost of undertaking field activities, we're really talking about DSAs, daily subsistence allowance, travel allowances, and things like that. Flood them all in there. Cost for any capacity building trainings. I don't know why some employers think this is actually a huge cost. They shun away from it. But capacity building is all part of continuous professional development. You really need to get your staff up to date with the latest trends in monitoring and evaluation. So this is not something you can run away from. Another important thing in the budget you need to include is the hiring of independent evaluators and also the contingency in case things don't go according to plan. Okay, guys, I guess that's the end of this part. How you develop an M&E plan. I sure hope you enjoyed this part of the training. So now we're going straight into the data quality audit. So stay tuned. Hi guys, we're going to be looking at undertaking the data quality audits. So now the data quality audits are very important, and this is because you want to ensure that the integrity and quality of data is not compromised. Remember, as M&E professionals, our key interest is the collection, analysis, and reporting of this data. So to do this, we need to make sure that what we're getting is the correct type of data we want. The reason is simple. At the end of the day, we really want to be able to make informed decisions. And these decisions should lead to greater improvement on the way we implement our project activities. So now I want us to dissect these three important terms. The first thing is, what exactly is data? The second is, what is quality? And the third is, what is an audit? So now the first thing is, what is data? So data, dear friends, are simply the facts and statistics collected together for reference or analysis. So data, think of data as its raw form. Okay, it's the raw form that when you process it, it gives you information, because numbers and figures on its own doesn't mean anything. But when you actually analyze it, it's going to tell you something. And what is quality? I like to think of quality as something that meets a certain standard, okay? Or in simple way of explaining it really, is it good or is it bad? That's quality. But I mean, quality means different things to different people. But the point is that it should be able to meet a standard. What about an audit? Well, the audit is an inspection, okay? And I'm sure a lot of people who've done finance or accounts, they understand this very well. But in this case, we're not talking about the finance part of it. Of course, sometimes if you're doing an audit, you want to understand those parameters, but it's not what we are really talking about here. It's in relation to the standards? Are we adhering to the standards of what we expect from good quality data? So now the data quality audit, as the name suggests, is an inspection. So you want to ensure that the data continues to adhere to the requirements. And what are those standards I talked about? Okay, I talked about earlier that there are standards which you need to ensure that the data adheres to. The first thing is the accuracy and precision. The second is legitimacy and validity, reliability and consistency, timeliness and relevance, completeness and comprehensiveness, availability and accessibility, and then granularity and uniqueness. So these are really the standards. So I want to say that I'm not going to talk about all of them in detail. I want you to take time, look at these standards, and find out for yourself what these really mean. So now, the data quality audit is quite a lengthy methodology. I've been coaching this aspect with some of my students, okay, around the world. I've been coaching them. So if you want to learn about the data quality audit methodology, write to me. I'll be happy to help you, run you through, but this will be more like a mini coaching session at a small fee, but it won't be like the fee that I'm charging the other people who are doing the 3 months and 6 months coaching program. This will be at a very subsidized rate, specifically aligned to the data quality audits. So I sure hope you enjoyed this part of the training. So now we're going to the next part, the different types of evaluations. I posted these videos on the YouTube channel some days ago. I think it must have been days ago, but I'm repeating them on this 2021 training because I think it's very important. So I sure hope you're going to enjoy the types of evaluations. I wish you a very happy 2021 year full of success and achievement. I've been your host, Coach Alexander, and see you on the other side. Bye. Hello guys, welcome to Monitoring and Evaluation Made Simple. I'm your host, Coach Alexander. I'm so glad that you've joined me today on M&E Made Simple. Today we're going to be looking at a very interesting topic, types of project evaluation methods, part 1. Okay, so this is a series which I'll be posting. I'm hoping to be posting every day. But if I don't manage every day, it will be done at least maybe every 2 days and so on and so forth. So I'm so glad you've joined me. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do go to subscribe to this channel because on a regular basis, I post M&E tips for your own professional building. Okay, so for those of you who are here for the first time, if you don't know me, my name is Coach Alexander. I've been in the monitoring and evaluation profession for 10 years now. I'm so glad to be in it because it is what I do. It is something I enjoy and I like helping others grow. So that is why last year in 2020 we started a coaching program. We've got 2 3 months coaching program. We've got a 6 months coaching program as well. This is a very good program, and I would urge you to enroll in it. We have a new one starting in January 12th, 2021. We'll urge you to enroll in this one because it's a 6-month one-on-one coaching program in monitoring and evaluation. If you're interested, please write to me on the email in the description below. However, if you don't feel the need to pay for anything, if you want free things, I do have freebies for you. This is the 2020 M&E guide and the LFA analysis step-by-step guide. So these are very important guides. They are good guides for you to kickstart your profession. I'm hoping to release a 2021 M&E guide because we want to continuously update information that we share. I also have a very interesting course, how to set up a monitoring and evaluation system step-by-step guide. Guys, this is a very good course and it is very cheap. Please enroll in this course. It's hosted on Udemy. So as usual, this video is quite long, okay, but you shouldn't feel bad because there are timestamps in the description below. So without wasting any more time, let's get straight into business. Okay, so the way projects are run, whichever projects, guys, whichever projects, it could be construction projects, it could be road development projects, it could be water and sanitation projects, whatever projects you are running, even in the education sector. If you're implementing projects, if you've been employed as a manager to coordinate projects, please be mindful that every project has a cycle. So in that cycle, you have to understand that the planning is critical. But when you do the implementation, in order to know whether you implemented the project well or not, there is going to have to be conducted an evaluation. So this evaluation is so important, guys. So important. I think this is where the learning, in my view, this is where the learning actually comes in. So now, I just want us to understand, just to refresh our memory, what is an evaluation in the first place? Well, an evaluation is an in-depth assessment of a project, which is done in order to determine whether a project has achieved its goals or not. So it really doesn't get any better than that in the definition, because of course there are different definitions on the internet, but they all mean this, they all mean the same thing. Now the thing is that there are there are different aspects that are trying to be measured in an evaluation. You want to measure the effectiveness, you want to measure the efficiency, you want to measure the sustainability, you want to measure the impact. There's so many things that come in when you're doing the evaluation. But all in all, what you're trying to analyze is whether this project actually did what was intended. Okay. I'm sure you've heard of questions where somebody may ask you, okay, this project you implemented, fine, it was implemented, but there were also similar projects that were implemented in the same area. How do we know that your project actually is the one that did the intended change? So you see, it's only in the evaluation that you'll be able to determine whether your project actually is responsible for the changes. Now, I want to mention that change can be either positive or it could be negative. But whichever direction it takes, guys, all you're trying to do is learn, because when you learn from your mistakes or from your successes, you're able to do a lot more in the next phase of the project. Okay. Or if you don't want to have a next phase, simply just design a new, totally different project similar to the predecessor and do the things the right way. Now, I really have to tackle this because a lot of times people ask me, what really is the differences between monitoring and evaluation? So, evaluation and monitoring, they go hand in hand, but they're totally different things. Although you hear people say M&E, monitoring and evaluation. You type monitoring and evaluation on the internet, you see the same thing. It's not one word actually, there are two different things. So now, in terms of the frequency, monitoring actually is done regularly. Evaluation is done once in a while in terms of frequency. The monitoring function, guys, is more of a tracking method, but an evaluation is an assessment. So what you're simply trying to do, you're trying to dig deeper. The thing is that the monitoring answers the what questions, but the evaluation answers the why. Why has this happened? Okay. In terms of monitoring, we all know that as you are tracking, you're really trying to figure out how best you can improve your efficiency. Okay, because I mean, efficiency is all about achieving the best result with the minimum resources. But when you look at evaluation, it's more about effectiveness, impact, value for money, guys. And that is what makes it so interesting. And that is why a lot of stakeholders invest a lot in the evaluation. What is the focus about the monitoring? You know, it's mostly done at the lower end of the results framework. We are monitoring the inputs most times, the outputs, the processes. That is where monitoring ends. But with evaluation, you're looking at the higher level indicators. You're looking at the impact. You're looking at the outcome. What has changed? And usually these are long-term changes. Okay? So I would want you to take time, go on the internet, look around, try to understand evaluation for what it really is. It is something much more. It is where the learning actually happens. Okay, of course, the monitoring does give us some bit of learning, but it's actually in the evaluation where we really get to learn where we are doing right and where we are doing wrong. So now, in this series, we're going to consider all the different types of evaluations that are there. Okay. And as you can see, in case you've never seen these different types of evaluations, it's a good thing that you'll be working with me in the next few days in tackling this topic. What are the different types of evaluations? Well, I just tend to think that there are much more types than 7 than the ones listed. But let me list them down to you because I've chosen 7 which I thought we could discuss. We've got the performance logic chain assessment. We've got the pre-implementation assessment, the process implementation evaluation, the rapid appraisal. And I have to tell you that for the rapid appraisal, that is something I'm so familiar with. I've been working with that for many years. In my 10 years, it's the one I usually use. We've got the case study, we've got the impact evaluation, we've got the meta evaluation. So in the next videos I'll be posting, we're going to be looking at each of these different types of evaluations. And I really hope you'll be part of this because it's going to be such an interesting start to our new year 2021. I also want to mention that in a few weeks' time, I'll be releasing the 2021 M&E training. Okay, it's going to be such an exciting time, an exciting start to January. Okay, so guys, if you haven't seen the 2020 lessons video, which I released just a few days ago, please take time to look at that video. So until we meet again, I've been your host, Coach Alexander. See you on the other side. Bye. Hello, guys. Welcome to Monitoring and Evaluation Made Simple. I'm your host, Coach Alexander. If you're here for the very first time, please subscribe to this channel because on a regular basis I post videos on M&E. So we're continuing on our 8 parts series on types of project evaluation methods. So this one is part 2. But before I go any further, in case you don't know me, I'm Coach Alexander. I've been doing this for 10 years now. And there is a 6-month program we are going to be starting in January 12th. It's a one-on-one coaching program in monitoring and evaluation. So if you are very interested in this program, please write to me on coachalexander23@yahoo.com. My email address is in the description below. We also have the free ebooks which we're giving away. You can access these freebies in the description link below. If you have any challenges, simply write to me and I'll be happy to send it to you myself. I also have this course, the Udemy, how to set up monitoring and evaluation system step-by-step walkthrough. So you can find this course on Udemy. It's very cheap. As you can see, it's about $12. So I'm sure you have every reason to enroll. Okay, so as usual, this video is quite long, but please take full advantage of the timestamps in the description below so that you don't have to watch everything if you don't want to, but just focus on the areas that are of key interest to you. So without wasting any more time, let's get straight into it. So the first evaluation method I want to talk about is the rapid appraisal, because this is the one I'm more familiar with, okay? So the rapid appraisal is a good approach when doing evaluations. And what makes it a rapid appraisal? Well, maybe let me just read what it says here. It says rapid appraisal can be characterized as a multi-method evaluation approach that uses a number of data collection methods. Rapid appraisal is essentially the use of a mix of the above described methods in order for decision makers to obtain timely, relevant, accurate, and usable information on development programs and projects. So that is what the rapid appraisal evaluation method is. So there are different types of data collection methods that you use, and these are the ones which are listed in front of you. You've got the key informant interviews. You've got the focus group interviews. You've got the community interviews. You've got the structured direct observation and the surveys. So in this evaluation method, you see, I'm sure now you can understand why this is a very familiar approach, because I'm familiar with it. I've used it before. I'm pretty sure if you've been doing M&E for quite some time, you'll agree with me that you've used this kind of methodology before. So it has a mixture of different data collection methods. So now what are the advantages? Well, the first thing is that using this method is going to give you quick and timely information. Because if you look at all those methods I showed you, the different data collection methods, they are quite they are quite intense, they are quite informative when it comes to getting data. So that's one advantage you get from using the rapid appraisal technique. It is also relatively less expensive than different other approaches. But then another advantage is that it can make rapid reporting possible and help flag the need for continuous corrective action. So this is one of the things which really defines monitoring and evaluation. It's the corrective action. They need to take corrective measures. So the rapid appraisal, because it's a rapid evaluation, it's going to give you that continuous um, corrective measures that you may need to take. So now the only problem that is there with this, because you're using different kinds of data approaches, data collection approaches, it is usually a challenge to aggregate the findings, okay, because you're using different approaches. So it can be challenging in the issue of aggregation. Okay, so that's the only disadvantage I could think of. But now, maybe in case you don't really know these data collection methods, I feel that I can briefly explain each one of them so that you just have a clearer understanding what it is we're talking about. So the key informant interviews is one of those data collection methods. So if you are contracted as an evaluator, you may wish to identify key informants because these people actually have first-hand knowledge on a particular topic of interest, okay? Especially if you are doing these interviews in a specific area, okay? It may be necessary to have this first-hand information, not only from people who have knowledge on the topic, but you want to get information from people you can trust and people who are reliable. So that's why key informant interviews are quite important. So evaluators are concerned about maintaining the informant's anonymity. Sometimes it may be necessary to do so because maybe these key informants do not want to release their identity, which is well accepted anywhere you go because of confidentiality issues. So such things you as an evaluator always need to be keeping that in mind. So you select certain individuals who are well versed in the topic at hand and you interview them one on one. The other data collection method is the focus group discussion. So this one is quite inexpensive because you get to discuss issues with a group of 7 to 10 people, okay? And usually these discussions are quite informative because the group you select, the group you have these discussions with, can actually give you quite a wealth of information. So as a evaluator, your guide, you should be guided by some kind of a discussion guide that helps you constructively probe on a particular issue. You don't want to be too, you are discussing quite all right, but you don't want to get off topic because sometimes it's easy to get off topic on certain issues. But when you have an interview guide, a discussion guide, you are focused, you are zeroing in on the key issues that need to come out. So this usually lasts 1 to 2 hours, but I have to tell you that the longer you have these discussions, the more likely you are going to get off key. It's usually good to have these things as short as possible. 45 minutes to an hour, I think, in my view, is sufficient. So you should be flexible, all right? And also get everyone to participate regardless of their background, age, social background, whatever. Get everyone to participate so that you can get all the information you need. Another interesting data collection method is the community interviews. So I'm sure you understand this so well, guys. You go into a community and you get to interview community members. Okay, you can do that one on one. All right, usually that's what works best. You go and interview these individuals, especially if they are the people who are actually getting the support from a particular project. So you get to meet them, you have meetings, you interact with them, get the information, and then get the full benefit out of your discussions. Then another one is, I think we talked about, okay, sorry about that. I went back. So the direct observation. So direct observation is quite interesting because you as the evaluator, you just simply document what you've seen or what you've heard in the project site. So you go in, you show some physical presence, and then you document what is actually happening. So it's actually coming from the eye of the evaluator. Who is you? You get to understand what is going on and you simply report on that. So that's another way of collecting data. Then another interesting one is also the surveys. So a survey is a method of gathering information from a sample of people, okay? Traditionally with the intention of generalizing the result to a larger population. So a survey, guys, let me put it this way. Let's say you are implementing a project and that project is targeting 10,000 people. In as much as you would want to interview all that 10,000, it may not be possible because clearly you don't have the resources, you don't have the manpower, you don't have the time or the finances. So what you do instead is sample. So out of that 10,000, you maybe select maybe 500 people, okay, and then you go out there and you do constructive interviews, and then you get to understand what is actually happening on the ground. Okay, so that's all for now, and I sure hope you enjoyed that presentation I had on one type of evaluation method. I'm hoping that if you haven't watched the video on my 2020 lessons and also how to derive the lessons learned from a project, I'll really urge you to look at that video because it's quite informative. So until we meet again, I've been your host, Coach Alexander, and see you on the other side. Bye. Hello, guys. Welcome to Monitoring and Evaluation Made Simple. I'm your host, Coach Alexander. I'm so glad that you've joined me today, and we're continuing on our 8-part series, Types of Project Evaluation Methods. This is part 3. So in case you don't know me, just in case, my name is Coach Alexander. I've been doing this for 10 years now. I'm so happy to be having you today if you're here for the first time. And I am a skilled professional in monitoring and evaluation. So now I've been telling a lot of my friends that starting January 12, 2021, we are enrolling people in the 6-month one-on-one coaching program, which will start on the January of 12th this month. So I'm hoping that you can come in to enroll, to share in this wonderful journey in which you get to learn the best skills in monitoring and evaluation. It's a rich course and I hope you can join us by then. But in case you are not ready, there are some free ebooks that I'm giving away. We've got the Monitoring and Evaluation Beginner's Guide 2020 and the Logical Framework Analysis Step-by-Step Guide. The links are in the description. Please download these. They are totally free. Then we've got the How to Set Up an M&E System Step-by-Step course. This is a very, very good course. It's hosted on Udemy. I really want you to enroll in it, guys. It's a very good course and it is cheap. So you can afford it. Don't tell me you can't afford it. This is something you can afford. So as usual, this video is quite long, but it's not as long as the other videos I've done because it's a little brief, but just in case you want to skip certain parts of this video, use these timestamps, okay, because they'll help you navigate through the video and only listen to the part of this video which is relevant to you. So without wasting any more time, let's get started, shall we? Okay, so the next evaluation project evaluation method is the pre-implementation assessment. Okay, it's the pre-implementation assessment. In case you haven't heard about this, it's a very interesting way to help you make sure that the success rate of your project is elevated. Okay, so how is this done really? Well, the thing is that before you actually move into the implementation of the project, you need to sit down and ask yourself some questions that can convince you that if this project is actually rolled out, we're going to see a high success rate. And that's all we all want at the end of the day. We want to see success. We want to breathe success. So this is the point, guys. There are certain questions you need to ask yourself even when the planning has been done by people, by an organization, whether it's a committee or other stakeholders, even when that has been done, you need to do an assessment of the project which is being proposed. And these are the questions you need to ask yourself. Are the objectives well defined so that outcomes can be stated in measurable terms? You know, I have to tell you that A is a very, very important question. And I've talked about this for the past, I think this is my 4th year now, talking about this. The thing is that you can only measure progress of a project if it has clearly defined objectives. And those clearly defined objectives translate to clearly defined indicators. So you need to really see for yourself, you need to analyze, are these indicators making sense? Are they feeding into the whole objective, the whole outcome, the whole vision, mission of the project? Okay. I hope you get what I'm talking about here. I hope you get it clearly. And then the other question you need to ask yourself, is there a coherent and credible implementation plan that provides clear evidence of how implementation is to proceed and how successful implementation can be distinguished from poor implementation? I know this is a mouthful, but just to cut the long story short, when you look at coherence, how is the structure of the implementation plan? How is it really like? Because the key point is that there has to be that linkage. There has to be clear linkages that tell you that indeed when this thing is rolled out, there will be a high success rate. Are you able to tell that an implementation plan is successful only when you see a certain aspect of it being successful? Are you really able to tell that? Can you distinguish it from poor implementation? Those are the key points we need to be asking ourselves. If you are able to answer that with full confidence, then clearly the design of the project is good, it's credible, it's trustworthy. Even if you took it to any region of the world, took it to any organization, they'll always agree with what you have laid on the table. Another thing is the rationale for the deployment of resources and how will you define the rationale? Is the rationale for the deployment of resources clear? Okay. And does it fulfill the requirements for achieving the stated outcomes? One of the things I've noticed, and I'm not trying to judge anybody. I don't know why people do this sometimes. They say they want to eradicate poverty. Okay, and that is a project which has been approved, and they are saying they want to eradicate poverty in a certain community. Now, if you look at such a project, guys, I don't know. From an M&D perspective, the first question I'm going to ask is, how is this even possible? Because I mean, poverty is a big thing, guys. We are talking about tons of resources here. We're talking about behavioral change. We're talking about policy. We're talking about economics. We're talking about so many things, you see. Even if you'd say that this project is going to reduce poverty by 50%, by 75%, I'll still raise question marks because that's a really huge ambition. So now, if you are saying that there's a project like that, okay, if that project is able to do that, the next question you ask is, what resources are you really going to pump into there? And for how long? Because, quite frankly, let's just look at one aspect of poverty reduction. Perhaps it's policy. How do you get policymakers to, make the economy more conducive for the people who are already poor? And then you're talking about changing people's behaviors. Changing attitudes takes time. It takes education. Who's going to be doing the trainings and for how long? How much will you be paying these skilled trainers? I can spend the whole day talking about this. But usually it is important to be realistic even in the project design if you want to be successful with your project. Set realistic targets, set realistic goals. Make it clear from the onset that you are only able to go to this extent. If you are saying that you want to reduce poverty, fine. But clearly define what poverty is. If you are saying you want to increase incomes, how are you going to do it? Those are things you need. And what resources, what resources are required? So you really need to sit down and judge from yourself and be transparent. Don't sugarcoat things. The budget needs to be pumped with money if it requires money in order to achieve the intended change. So now what are the advantages of this evaluation approach, the pre-assessment? I can only think of advantages. Unfortunately, I didn't see any disadvantages of doing this exercise. If you have any disadvantages, please let me know. I'll be happy to list them somewhere. Okay, the first advantage is that the failure rate in the implementation of the project is drastically reduced. And this is something, guys, I can personally testify to. If you do things with a realistic mindset, if you seal all the gaps, if you avoid sugarcoating things for the sake of donors seeing your project proposal to be attractive, then you're going to see a success rate should you get the funds. Because we need to be realistic in everything that we do. And that is why in your design of a project, if you want to reduce poverty levels, here is a hint to you. Don't be too ambitious. You want to target thousands and thousands of beneficiaries. Just concentrate in a small community and change the lives of that small community, because that is a realistic approach. And then the other points, I don't know why those double A's are appearing there. I think it's a PowerPoint error. Another point is that it also reassures to stakeholders that the design of the project is really fit for purpose. It's like this. You want to embark on a journey, right? Using, let's say you have a BMW and you want to journey 500 k's to another place somewhere. You want to ensure that that BMW is fit for travel. So in a similar case, we are saying that the project should be fit for purpose, and then everyone should be agreeable to it. Okay, so guys, that was all for today. Please join me again as we consider other evaluation approaches. I sure hope you enjoyed this presentation. Until we meet again, see you on the other side. Bye. Hi guys, welcome to part 5 of our 8-part series, Types of Project Evaluation Methods. I'm your host, Coach Alexander. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to this channel, because on a regular basis I post updates on monitoring and evaluation. So in case you don't know me, Coach Alexander, I've been here for 10 years doing my thing. This is what I do, this is what I enjoy. It's simply that simple. I love monitoring and evaluation. So now 2021 is going to be an amazing year. Starting January 12th, we'll start enrolling students in a 6-month one-on-one coaching program in M&E. So I would urge you guys, I would urge you, my dear friends, to please consider contacting me in the email in the description below. Then I'm going to show you how you can enroll into this 6-month program. It is very good. It's good for you. It's good for your organization, and it's also important for your career progression. In case you haven't yet downloaded these free ebooks, please do well to download them. They're in the description below. I'll try my best this year to release the 2021 edition. So look out for that, guys. I have the how to set up a monitoring and evaluation system step-by-step course, which is being run on Udemy. Please guys, don't hesitate to enroll, because it is also very cheap and it's going to show you exactly how M&E systems are developed. As usual, this is quite a long video, okay? At least 10 minutes, but knowing viewers on YouTube, they get impatient. So it's quite long. 10 minutes is long on YouTube apparently. So in case you want to navigate the video efficiently, just use the timestamps. They're in the description below. Okay, so what is impact evaluation? I think I've talked about this many times on my channel, and quite frankly, I'm not going to spend time, because what I'm going to do, I found another video on YouTube. It's a Creative Commons video, which means that it's free to share and reuse. So it's on YouTube. I want you to watch it, have a different perspective of what people say impact evaluation is. But still, I'm gonna explain it to you briefly. So what is this impact evaluation? You know, the impact evaluation answers the question of attribution, all right? Attribution is quite a complicated thing, because you have a project. Let's say you have a project that wants to bring economic empowerment to women. How are you going to determine that it was indeed your project that did the change, that improved the lives of that group, those group of women, when you have maybe 2 or 3 other similar projects doing the same. So that's what impact evaluation tries to do. And the thing is that it is it can get quite difficult, especially when you have different factors, different players that may have contributed to a result. So the attribution is really the center of why this type of evaluation is done. And what makes this evaluation unique, it's usually done after many years of project implementation. After the implementation has concluded, you do the impact evaluation. So even just the word itself, impact. When you hear the word impact, we're talking about long-term change. So you want to determine whether there has been any positive or negative change. Of course, we want to see the positive, but there are so many effects that come from a project sometimes. So you might actually also be capturing negative results. So when you're answering, okay, so how is this attribution solved? Well, a lot of researchers say that the best way to answer this question, first of all, you have to accept that it's difficult to answer. But there are ways, and what I see come all the time. I've done my reading, I've done my own research. What I see come on the internet in books is that you need to have a control group. That's the only way you'll be able to determine whether your project actually was responsible for the intended change. Okay? So what is a control group? Let's say you have of course you've targeted certain women in one area. That's where your project is running, and obviously that your project, because it's running in one area, it's going to impact on the women in that area. But then your project, which is, of course, it's not operating everywhere. There are other areas where it has no presence at all. So in those areas where there's no presence at all, you also sample that area of people. Those become your control group. And hence you do comparisons. You compare the project implementation area, the beneficiaries there, to the people that were not benefiting from your program, and then you can make conclusions. Okay? So now, like I earlier mentioned, there's a video. It's Audiopedia. Okay, interesting YouTube channel. So I want you to take time, watch this video. As you can see there, the license is Creative Commons Attribution License, which means that I can reuse this. Okay, of course I can't modify it, but I can reuse it, and it's easy. It's also promoting, I'm actually promoting their channel by putting their video in my video. So it's a win-win situation, really. Okay, so guys, until we meet again after watching this video, you can write to me, say hi. If you have any donations, I would really appreciate if you can donate to me. But at this point in time, I leave it there. I've been your host, Coach Alexander, and see you on the other side. Bye.
Impact evaluation assesses the changes that can be attributed to a particular intervention, such as a project, program or policy, both the intended ones, as well as ideally the unintended ones. In contrast to outcome monitoring, which examines whether targets have been achieved, impact evaluation is structured to answer the question, how would outcomes such as participants' well-being have changed if the intervention had not been undertaken? This involves counterfactual analysis, that is, a comparison between what actually happened and what would have happened in the absence of the intervention. Impact evaluations seek to answer cause and effect questions. In other words, they look for the changes in outcome that are directly attributable to a program. Impact evaluation helps people answer key questions for evidence-based policymaking: what works, what doesn't, where, why and for how much? It has received increasing attention in policymaking in recent years in the context of both Western and developing countries. It is an important component of the armory of evaluation tools and approaches, and integral to global efforts to improve the effectiveness of aid delivery and public spending more generally and improving living standards. Originally more oriented towards evaluation of social sector programs in developing countries, notably conditional cash transfers, impact evaluation is now being increasingly applied in other areas such as the agriculture, energy and transport. A range of organizations are working to coordinate the production of systematic reviews. Systematic reviews aim to bridge the research policy divide by assessing the range of existing evidence on a particular topic, and presenting the information in an accessible format. Like rigorous impact evaluations, they are developed from a study protocol which sets out a priori the criteria for study inclusion, search and methods of synthesis. Systematic reviews involve 5 key steps: determination of interventions, populations, outcomes and study designs to be included, searches to identify published and unpublished literature, and application of study inclusion criteria relating to interventions, populations, outcomes and study design, as set out in study protocol. Coding of information from studies. Presentation of quantitative estimates on intervention effectiveness using forest plots and, where interventions are determined as appropriately homogeneous, calculation of a pooled summary estimate using meta-analysis. Finally, systematic reviews should be updated periodically as new evidence emerges. Systematic reviews may also involve the synthesis of qualitative information, for example relating to the barriers to, or facilitators of, intervention effectiveness. Organizations supporting the production of systematic reviews include the Cochrane Collaboration, which has been coordinating systematic reviews in the medical and public health field since 1993, and publishes the Cochrane Handbook, which is definitive systematic review methodology guide. In addition, the Campbell Collaboration has coordinated the production of systematic reviews of social interventions since 2000, and the International Initiative for Impact Evaluation, in partnership with the Campbell Collaboration, is funding systematic reviews of social programs in developing countries. Other organizations supporting systematic reviews include the Institute of Education's Epicenter and the University of York's Center for Reviews and Dissemination. The body of evidence from systematic reviews is large and available through various online portals including the Cochrane Library, the Campbell Library, and the Center for Reviews and Dissemination. The available evidence from reviews of development interventions in low and middle-income countries is being built up by organizations such as the International Initiative for Impact Evaluation Synthetic Reviews Program.
Hi guys, welcome to Monitoring and Evaluation Made Simple. I'm your host, Coach Alexander. We're continuing on our 8-part series, Types of Project Evaluation Methods. This is part 6. In case you don't know me, you're here for the very first time. My name is Coach Alexander. I've been doing this for a very long time. I love monitoring and evaluation. It is what I do. It is who I am. So now, we've been doing this actually in January 12th, 2021. We're going to be starting the 6-month one-on-one coaching program. I would really urge you to enroll in this program because it is a very good program. I want you to have the full benefit in participating in this one-on-one coaching program. Then there are these 2 free ebooks which you can get for free. They're in the description, in the link below. So please take time to download these free ebooks. They are for you. They're meant to help you. I also have how to set up a monitoring and evaluation system step-by-step guide. It's not actually a guide, but it's a course, so you can find time to enroll in this course. It is quite affordable. So as usual, this video is quite long, at least 10 minutes, but you know how YouTube is, people are impatient. So I think I would say 10 minutes is a long video. So please take advantage of the timestamps in the description below. Okay, so now our sixth evaluation type is the meta evaluation. I have to tell you guys, I've not really used this meta evaluation. So forgive me if I'll appear like I don't really know, but I have an idea what it's about because I've done my research. So when you have a lot of evaluations that have been done, the meta evaluation really systematically establishes the procedures and criteria that was used to do these evaluations. But also it tries to establish the trends, okay, so that you're able to gain that full confidence that okay, indeed, so the findings are quite trustworthy, for lack of a better term. Okay, so why are these things done? Okay, well, it is done as a way of learning. Okay, because when you have a lot of evaluations done, you know, think of it this way. When you're able to establish trends, it will give you a sense of what is working and what is not working. So once you have all these different evaluations that have been conducted maybe within a time period of 10 years or 10 to 20 years, you bring them all together, you're going to be able to establish indeed what worked and what didn't work, what is the best criteria to use, and what should be avoided at all costs. So it uses findings, okay, from a series of evaluations, okay, and then it requires a robust quality assurance mechanisms to ensure that the evaluations that were used were credible and of good quality. So all you're trying to do really is as you're doing this trend analysis, I like to call it as a trend analysis. You're just you're really trying to know what is the best practice based on all these evaluations. But if, for instance, you're looking for secondary data, the whole issue is that you want to convince yourself that one, this secondary data can be used and it is authentic, and then it is the kind of data which you can use for other reporting ventures. So now, let me read what has been written here. It says, used to assess the evaluation process itself, such as an inventory of evaluations to inform the section of future evaluations. So just as I was saying, when you have all these evaluations that have been conducted in the past, you are trying to understand what is the best practice. Okay, so definitely from all these documents, all these reports, you can be able to get a sense of what has worked and what has not worked. And then it's going to help you create proper standards for future evaluations. Okay, so that was all for today. I think I didn't take 10 minutes if you come to think of it. I must have taken less. But I'm so happy you were part of this, and please stay tuned for the next two parts of the 8-part series. Until we meet again, I've been your host, Coach Alexander, and see you on the other side. Bye.
Are you looking for a personal M&E coach to be doing all of your M&E dirty work? And someone who is damn cheap, like $5 cheap? Do you want to access M&E Constancy for only $5? Monitoring and evaluation, which is also known as M&E, is all about understanding where you are, where you want to be, and how you're going to get there. When you engage in any M&E intervention, the first thing you want to do is understand the context. What exactly is it that you want to achieve by having a monitoring and evaluation system? While it's true that many organizations, and not excluding individual persons, see M&E as a donor requirement, the truth is it's so much more. In 2017 alone, donors pumped in at least $27 billion in humanitarian assistance. That alone was a huge, generous commitment, but a tough call, especially if such monies are not accounted for. That's why monitoring and evaluation is important. It bridges that huge gap that gives you the information you need to know about project success. In years to come, M&E Made Simple will embark on a global mission to become an international watchdog in order to give everybody affected by a project or program to become whistleblowers in the management of funds. M&E Made Simple realizes the key importance that monitoring and evaluation plays in the lives of above 1 billion people worldwide, which is why M&E Made Simple has taken the next step to offer expertise in monitoring and evaluation on any topic of your choice. It can be any topic in M&E or project management of your choice, such as undertaking a baseline or evaluation, research, log frame development, and so on. And guess what? All this is only for $5. In order to access this service, simply register a Fiverr account using the link below. This is the first and most important step. Afterwards, use the link that follows to access the service for only $5. This service is open to students, organizations, lecturers, and any other person around the globe. That's all the time we have, and see you on the other side.
Hi guys, welcome to M&E Made Simple. In case you didn't know this, those twins you saw in the previous video talked about a service I do for $5. If you're interested to learn more, simply write to me in the description below. So let's get started. We are on the 7th part of this 8-part series we are doing. Types of project evaluation methods. This is part 7. So as usual, that's my name, Coach Alexander. I've been here for 10 years. I hope now you know me. If you don't know me, write to me. We can get to know each other better. There is this 6-month one-on-one coaching program which commences in January 12, 2021. If you haven't done so, please enroll in it. It is a very good program. Write to me if you want to learn more. My email is in the description below. There are these 2 ebooks which are up for grabs. They are totally free. In the description below, you can access them. They are totally free, guys. Download them. They are good for you. They help you understand what M&E is at a basic level. And then we've got the how to set up a monitoring and evaluation system step-by-step course being hosted on Udemy. Please take time to get enrolled in it. It is very cheap, as you can see, only $12. It could even be cheaper depending on how Udemy feels that day. They can actually give you huge discounts. Okay, so as usual, this video is quite long. So take advantage of the timestamps in the description below. Without wasting any more time, let's get straight into business. So now we're going to be considering the 2 last evaluation methods, okay? We've got the performance logic chain assessment, and then we've got the process implementation evaluation. These are the 2 last evaluation types we're going to be considering in this series, okay? So now, what is the process implementation evaluation? As you can see in the name, it will suggest what it is. It really focuses on the process implementation. And it really asks these questions: what did or did not get implemented that was planned? All right. So what you're simply trying to do really is, when your project is running, you obviously had those plans, but the issue is that you want to understand what went well, what had been planned and what had been implemented. So in the process of trying to understand those things, other things pop up. you've got establishing, you need to establish how much costs were incurred, what was the staff capacity and capability, how were the financial resources utilized, how did the staff work, was there political support or stakeholder support, things like that. All these things actually help you fully understand what you achieved compared to what was planned. And then, it's also about you understanding during the implementation phase what outcomes emerged. Okay, you also want to establish that. So when you do this kind of evaluation, okay, especially if it is done midway the project, you are going to be able to take corrective action well in advance, because you understand that, okay, for instance, you planned something but it is not being implemented as planned. You look at the costs, you look at staff capacity, financial resources, all those things combined, and then you're able to see where the problem is. Could it be that the current staff you have lack capacity in a certain area? If it is found to be true, then the corrective measure you do is to build capacity to help these staff do the right thing. And that is the corrective action we're talking about. So now, what is the performance logic chain assessment? We looked at the other one, now we're looking at the logic chain assessment. So it is used to determine the strength and logic of the causal model behind the policy, program, or project. So now this is very interesting. I like this so much because logic is really the key. How do the activities we do lead to the outcome we want to see? Very important. So we want to determine the strength of that. So we really need to look at, okay, let me just read what it says. The causal model addresses the deployment and sequence of activities, resources, or policy that can be used to bring about change in an existing condition. So the evaluation addresses the possibility of achieving that desired change based on similar prior efforts and literature. So you look at, you evaluate, you have a project already, but you look at past literature to determine whether indeed this logic is going to bring about the change that you want. So now, when you're attempting to do that, you are simply determining, you're simply assessing the present effort in comparison to the past. Okay. And then looking at the past, looking at prior experience, it's going to tell you, give you an indication of what you would expect in the future. So it is such a nice evaluation because really it gives you an opportunity to strengthen the design of your project. So that when you see that, okay, looking at prior experience, this cannot be achieved, you're going to make some corrective adjustments so that you can ensure that your project becomes successful. Okay, so those were the two last types of evaluations, and I have to tell you, this has been really an enjoyable series for me. The next part, the last part, I'm going to talk about how you can improve the quality of your evaluations. I thought I should leave that as a standalone part because it's really important so that we can, even as we do the evaluations, we come out with results that are of high quality and that can inform decision making. Until we meet again, I've been your host, Coach Alexander, and see you on the other side. Bye.
Are you looking for a personal M&E coach to be doing all of your M&E dirty work? And someone who is damn cheap, like $5 cheap? Do you want to access M&E Constancy for only $5? Monitoring and evaluation, which is also known as M&E, is all about understanding where you are, where you want to be, and how you're going to get there. When you engage in any M&E intervention, the first thing you want to do is understand the context. What exactly is it that you want to achieve by having a monitoring and evaluation system? While it's true that many organizations, and not excluding individual persons, see M&E as a donor requirement, the truth is it's so much more. In 2017 alone, donors pumped in at least $27 billion in humanitarian assistance. That alone was a huge, generous commitment, but a tough call, especially if such monies are not accounted for. That's why monitoring and evaluation is important. It bridges that huge gap that gives you the information you need to know about project success. In years to come, M&E Made Simple will embark on a global mission to become an international watchdog in order to give everybody affected by a project or program to become whistleblowers in the management of funds. M&E Made Simple realizes the key importance that monitoring and evaluation plays in the lives of above 1 billion people worldwide, which is why M&E Made Simple has taken the next step to offer expertise in monitoring and evaluation on any topic of your choice. It can be any topic in M&E or project management of your choice, such as undertaking a baseline or evaluation, research, log frame development, and so on. And guess what? All this is only for $5. In order to access this service, simply register a Fiverr account using the link below. This is the first and most important step. Afterwards, use the link that follows to access the service for only $5. This service is open to students, organizations, lecturers, and any other person around the globe. That's all the time we have, and see you on the other side.
Hi, guys. Welcome to the final part of our 8-part series, Types of Project Evaluation Methods. I really hope you enjoyed every single bit. I'm so happy because I know I did my part. Now it's up to you to do your part and make a tremendous contribution to your organizations. If you're here for the first time, my name is Coach Alexander, been here for 10 years. I have a 6-month one-on-one coaching program which begins in January 12th, 2021. Please find time, enroll in it. I want you to have the maximum benefit in this coaching program. There are those 2 free ebooks. You are free to download them. They're in the description below. I also have a wonderful course on Udemy, how to set up a monitoring and evaluation system step by step. Okay, so please find time. If you have the money, enroll in this course. It's only $12. It could be cheaper, but it's already cheap. Let's face it, $12 is a cheap amount. So please enroll in it. As usual, this is a long video, but you can take full advantage of the timestamps in the description below so that your experience when watching these videos is of the best experience ever. So now, what are the characteristics of quality evaluations? You know what, guys? You can conduct an evaluation, you can hire a consultant to do your evaluation. But if that report does nothing to help you improve, let me tell you the truth, it's as if nothing was done. So there are certain things you need to make sure of when you engage a consultant to do the evaluation, or when you yourself have been contracted to conduct any evaluation. So those are the characteristics. There are 6 of them. And I want to believe at least you know 3/4 of them if you have been an M&E professional for as long as I have. But in case you are a newbie, even knowing one is fine, because really I knew these things even before I reached this far. Some of them at least I knew. Let's go through them. There's impartiality, there's usefulness, stakeholder involvement, value for money, technical adequacy, feedback, and dissemination. These are some of the characteristics. There could be more, but these are the main ones, guys. So I want us to go through them one by one. So when we say impartiality, what we're really saying is that there shouldn't be any political involvement, or there shouldn't this report you produce shouldn't be biased. In short, it should be objective. It should call a spade a spade. The challenges that we face as professionals, M&E professionals, is that we usually get attacked even when we produce authentic information. So that those attacks make us feel a bit uncomfortable when we have to report poor results. But the good part about all this is that even when results are not positive, let's use those results to stimulate thinking, to stimulate corrective action, so that in the next cycle of implementation, we are able to perform at maximum ability. One of the other things I have noticed is that when you contract a consultant to evaluate your project, sometimes they don't give you any information that you can use to make informed decisions. Sometimes, or they may give it to you, but it's not in a format where it's easily understood. They give you a lot of information, a lot of graphs, a lot of findings, but they don't really summarize it into a useful conclusion. Because, take for instance, if I want to know whether the well being, the livelihoods of people in a rural community has improved or not, I shouldn't be fed with so many statistics at first. What I want is from the consultant's or evaluator's perspective. The question is, have those lives improved? Yes or no? I shouldn't have to read a full report. I need those conclusions to come out clearly. Then I get to the detail. So sometimes, if it's not easy to establish the conclusions, then it is not useful to management, because we are expecting that this information should be relevant to our cause. And how do we determine relevancy? It's in the project log frame. The technical adequacy of a project, of an evaluation, cannot be overly emphasized. The thing is that the reason why technical adequacy is important is because when it comes to statistics, you need to use the correct procedures. When it comes to surveys, when it comes to evaluations, you need to use the correct procedures. So, have you used the correct sampling procedures? Have you used the correct questionnaires? Have you used the correct way of analyzing this information? Now, you don't need to be a professor, okay, to do all these things. The thing is that you just need to do things by the book, I think, in this case, because what happens is that if you miss out on doing things the correct way, you will produce misleading information. And then, even when you present such a high level report to a group of high level professionals, I'm telling you, they're going to give you a lot of criticism. So, it's really important you take care of this aspect. If you don't have you don't have the resource capacity, human capacity in your organization, you can hire it, and then they can help you come up with a methodology that is well accepted even in the academic realm. This is so important, and in my years of experience, I've seen sometimes this is where we miss it. Were stakeholders involved in quality assuring the evaluation report? We've got stakeholders. They need to be part of the process. You need to make sure that in your circle of stakeholders, stakeholders are the different stakeholders. We've got different categories. We've got the project beneficiaries. We've got the people in the academia. We've got the people in the government. We've got the donors. Have you involved, even just members of the public, have you involved them? One way you can involve them is after you've done the evaluation report, circulate it either through email, through different forums to people. Okay, you can send it to different organizations. Organizations would be happy to comment on your findings. However, one of the other things I've learned that if you really want this process to work, you need to give your stakeholders incentives to actually review your report. So it works well to have a workshop, invite different stakeholders to your workshop, and the workshop these days, hosting an event at a hotel, at a lodge, it doesn't really cost that much if you come to think about it. And these are the things which should be budgeted. Feedback, very, very important. So when you share the information, you need to be able to get feedback, and whatever feedback you get, let it be used to build you. Don't look at it as an attack. So now, the dissemination process of the findings after you've done the stakeholder involvement and then you finalize the report, it can now be widely broadcasted through different channels. You can use media, social media, email, radio, okay? And in the dissemination, you need to make sure that you've categorized the audience well, because not all the audiences will want to read the report, but some of the audiences will only want to know a portion of the report, a summary. The researchers and academicians are the ones who want to read that report page by page. But for members of the public, maybe they'll just need something summarized. And this is something you need to discuss among yourselves in the organizations to determine the information needs of different stakeholders. Another important thing is the value for money. So value for money is simply getting what you've paid for. I don't want to be in a situation where I pay hundreds of thousands of dollars and the product I receive is not the same. You can't equate it to what you spent. It's more like you've made losses. So when you talk of value for money, there we are simply saying is that when you engage in this data collection, whatever data you're collecting should be tied to usability. Are you going to use it? That is the key question. If you're not going to use most of that data, then you've lost out. You've incurred a huge cost, and that questions whether indeed your spending patterns were correct. So that was the last part. I sure hope you really enjoyed this 8 part series. It's been such a lovely time, and please don't go away because 2021 is going to be a year full of content on YouTube. I've been your host, Coach Alexander. Until we meet again, see you on the other side. Bye.